Welcome back, YouTube. 2025 is already off to a flying start. I mean, it literally feels like we've just come into the new year, but it's nearly March. So today, guys, I want to share my 5 top tips for you to gain more muscle in 2025. Right, guys, tip number 1, progressive overload. In order to build muscle tissue, you need to have adequate amount of training, intensity, and you do need to follow some sort of progressive overload within your training program. Now, how can we achieve progressive overload? Believe it or not, it's not just a weight on the bar. You can achieve progressive overload through numerous different ways. One of them being load, yes. Now, others are number of sets, range of motion, exercise execution, tempo. All of these different variables will potentially lead to you progressing your load and tension. Now, the way I like to explain progressive overload to my clients is you want to progress your stimulus and tension. There's numerous ways that you can create more tension on the muscle, and generally it doesn't have to just be more weight. It could simply be more repetitions. It could be a change in your execution. It could be utilizing different methods that can extend your sets if you are not able to use appropriate load, or it's too risky for you to do so, or you are simply working around injuries. So there's numerous ways to skin a cat. You do not have to just follow one set way. However, you do need to follow a way that allows you to be consistent and allows you to progress your lifts. If there is no progression within your lifts, progressive overload will not be achieved. Therefore, you will limit your ability to gain muscle. So tip number 1 is progressive overload. It is a must if you are looking to gain muscle this year. Tip number 2, prioritize good quality protein sources. As a rule of thumb, you need to aim for around 1.6 up to 2.2 grams of protein per pound of body weight. I know that to some of you, this probably sounds pretty high. However, when it comes to your overall protein intake, if you shoot for 1.6 up to 2.2 grams of protein coming from both your direct protein sources and indirect, meaning direct is your meats, your whey, your eggs, your fish, so your direct protein sources. Indirect protein sources that contribute towards your overall protein intake are your carbohydrate sources and fat sources, which are not complete protein sources that, in my opinion, are going to be as effective as the direct protein sources. Now, another rule of thumb that I like to give my clients often is when you set your diet structure and your overall protein intake, make sure that you are getting at least 30 to 35 grams of protein per meal from direct protein sources. So let's say one of your meals is chicken, a big portion of rice and some sourdough bread. Out of that meal, you need to get at least 30 grams up to 35 grams of protein coming from your chicken. That would probably be around 175 grams of raw weight chicken, 150, 175 grams. And then the remainder of that, it could be 100 grams of raw weight rice and 100 grams of low fat sourdough. This could actually take your protein intake within that meal up to around 50 grams. So you do need to incorporate both direct and indirect protein sources when it comes to your targets of protein intake. Now, the reason why protein and adequate protein is my number 2 is because you can still grow muscle even in a calorie deficit if your protein intake is adequate and you are following progressive overload principles. So good quality protein intake has to be the priority for both longevity and building muscle. Tip number 3, guys. If you want to maximize your ability to gain muscle tissue, you need to be in a calorie surplus. I have done a separate video on why bulking isn't dead and why you should still aim to push up your body weight without getting fat, of course. But the best and most effective way to gain muscle tissue is by simply being in a calorie surplus. When you are eating a sufficient amount of calories, your recovery will always be better. If you have better recovery, you will have better training performance. Better training performance means better stimulus, more tension in the muscle, more breakdown of the tissue. Then you can come home, eat, allow for repair, adaptation process, your muscle grows, adapts, you come back in the gym, you progress some more. Now, you can still grow in a calorie deficit with adequate protein intake. However, it will always be limited. A calorie surplus is a must if you are looking to gain muscle. Now, always make sure that you are eating just enough calories to sustain a small calorie surplus without eating an excess amount of calories. Whilst I do think a calorie surplus is the most effective way to build muscle, at the same time, guys, if you push that calorie surplus above and beyond to what you need, you will simply get fat. The more body fat you accumulate, the less muscle you actually build. Also, the more body fat you accumulate, the more you have to lose at the end of your gaining phase. And if you do allow yourself to accumulate too much body fat, it will be very, very hard to actually get lean without the risk of losing good quality muscle mass. So be mindful of staying in a small calorie surplus that fuels and supports your training, performance, and recovery. All right, guys, tip number 4, rest and recovery. You can only do what you can recover from. This is something that I repeat very, very often with my clients because we could all spend hours in the gym. However, if you are not able to recover and you are not able to progress your lifts, there will be very little growing done. So rest and recovery needs to be prioritized when it comes to gaining muscle tissue. Now, your muscle grows during the recovery process. Your muscle grows when you sleep. So you need to prioritize good quality sleep, relaxation time, and times specifically planned where you actively spend time away from the gym. Now, if I was to give you some brief guidelines on how you can maximize your rest and recovery, get in between 7 to 9 hours sleep and making sure that you are at least giving yourself 48 hours between training certain body parts. So if I was to assess a client, I would always want to see the logbook progressing in one way or another, whether that is low progression, reps, or sets. If we are not able to progress the lifts, they are likely under-recovered or they are working with too much volume. So always prioritize your rest and recovery. You do not grow in the gym. You do the damage in the gym, and all the growing is actually done outside of the gym when you rest and recover. Tip number 5, and this is potentially one of the most important ones because this tip is applicable across all of the facets of your life. Consistency is the key to gaining muscle. Consistency is the key to success in almost anything and everything you do in life. Building muscle takes time. Building muscle takes consistency both with your day-to-day execution, with your meal timing, with your training, with your sleep, with general structure of what you do and how you go about your days. Sticking to your training program over time, sticking to your diet over time, sticking to your meal schedule, sticking to your sleep times, it all falls under the bracket of consistency over time. If you fail to be consistent, I can promise you, you are leaving gains on the table. The most effective way to build muscle is staying consistent across applying yourself in the gym, eating an adequate amount of protein, making sure you stay consistently in a calorie surplus, consistent recovery periods and consistent sleep, and effort. Guys, this is my 5 top tips to gain more muscle in 2025. Guys, I hope you enjoy this one. And if you have got value from this video, please comment below and subscribe to the channel. Guys, thank you so much for today. Much more content is coming your way. 2025 is off to a flying start. Let's get massive, let's make progress, and leave nothing on the table. Game time.